Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sego ani buju wacheya kwekwe. As the mayor of the city of Kingston, I offer these words in the spirit of this gathering. Let us bring our good minds and hearts together as one to honor and celebrate these traditional lands as a gathering place of the original peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. It is with deep humility that we acknowledge and offer our gratitude for their contributions to this community, having respect for all as we share this space now and walk side by side into the future. We were just meeting in Committee of the Whole closed meeting. We discussed a number of different items, including Kingston Penitentiary, the Cultural Service Level Agreement, federal divestiture, and the Marine Museum. So with that, I will ask for a motion to rise without reporting.
Moved by Councillor Hutchison, second by Councillor Schell. The council rise from the Committee of the Whole closed meeting without reporting.
Please vote. And that carries. Next, we have a approval of the addeds. We have a delegation and also an information report. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Osanek. Please vote. And that carries. Are there any disclosures of potential pecuniary interest? Councillor George.
Thank you, Your Worship. I, Kevin George, of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Kingston, declare my pecuniary interest in the matter of Clause D, report number 46, as I've been retained by the adjacent property owner.
That's Clause D. Okay, seeing no other disclosures of pecuniary interest, we do have one presentation this evening. Noor Huda, Y2K Kingston Youth Strategy, along with Mariah Toner, Ed Burley, and Nick Rushton, will present Mayor Patterson with an award recognizing Kingston as a youth-friendly community, which was received at the Parks and Recreation Ontario Conference on April 7th, 2016.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Rushton. I'm 15 years old and I go KCVI. I'm here to talk about how Y2K has impacted on my life. My first ever meeting was back in 2014. We were playing a Kickin' It Carnival event. It was a huge success, and after that event I kept going to the meetings because I found it a lot of fun. Even though some of the meetings were boring, I still went. I felt like it was my duty as a youth to be there to make connections, because without someone to be there to make the connections, other people won't be there to connect. Shortly afterwards, I made connections with groups such as Boys and Girl Club and Pathways to Education. And then I also made connections with people such as Mayor Brian Patterson, MPP Sophie Kiwala, and MP Mark Gerritsen. I interviewed them for the Respect the Pink. I would like to thank City Council for supporting youth initiatives such as Y2K. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ed Burley. I live out in Sydenham, and I go to Sydenham High School. I'm off to college in the fall, St. Lawrence, to become a chef. Y2K is important to me because they connected with community living to go to a national youth conference that the Student Commission helped set up, which was awesome. At the conference, I learned that there's a lot of youth people like me that want to get involved and want to change the country and change their city. And we wrote recommendations to Justin Trudeau which was actually pretty awesome because he got to read them and give his approval on them and such. And yeah, I'd like to thank Y2K for that. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Mariah Toner and I am the youth facilitator for the Programs and Opportunities table of Y2K. We are here today to present the Playworks Youth Friendly Community Award, but first we would like to highlight some of the initiatives that made this distinction possible. So earlier today, Noor and myself had the pleasure of attending United Way's and Youth Out Loud's Ending Youth Homelessness in KFL&A event, and are very proud of the work that has been put into it and Y2K's connection to the steering team.
My name is Noor, and I'm the youth facilitator for the Youth Voice table. So some of our annual events, one Nick mentioned, Respect the Pink. It's an anti-bullying event every February in collaboration with the library, Boys and Girls Club City, and Y2K. We also have our youth forum, where we bring together adult allies and youth to go over the work Y2K has done over the year and what we're going to do in the following year.
So, as you heard Ed mention earlier, the Young Decision Makers Conference happened, and that was in junction with Y2K through the Youth Voice and Programs and Opportunities table, and I also had the opportunity to attend. As well, something that Y2K has been working on this past year is the Youth Friendly app, which has been spearheaded by our Environment and Spaces team in big conjunction with the Kingston Police. So it's been a team of committed youth ranking locations in the city in terms of their youth friendliness, so using criteria such as bike racks, Wi-Fi, and how friendly the staff are to youth.
Another really cool initiative that happened recently was Keys Leadership Employment Camp with the Boys and Girls Club Keys and both the school boards. So they took 75 youth, trained them, got them certified, and gave them hands-on employment skills.
And now we are in the throes of Youth Week, which is always a really busy time and an exciting time for Y2K. So we were really excited to kick it off last night with Motion with Council, where we were really happy to see quite a few of you guys out there to participate. And it was really awesome for some of our Y2K young people to get a chance to meet some of the city councilors in a non-traditional and a more casual setting so they can understand better what you guys do and why it's so important. Special shout out to Councillor Shell, who left it all on the court.
So it is our honor to present to you the Playworks Youth Friendly Community Award. And we just wanted to thank you so much for all your support over the years. It's meant a lot to us and made a huge difference in our lives and the youth around us.
We know that Y2K and our partners, along with the support of the City of Kingston, will continue to foster youth empowerment because we are not the leaders of tomorrow, we are the leaders of today. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you for that. Next, we do have a briefing. Lenny Hurdle, Commissioner of Community Services, will introduce Pabna Varma, President and CEO, United Way. Oh, I apologize. We do have a delegation on our addeds, so we'll just put a pause on that. My mistake. Our delegation this evening is David Knowles, who will appear before Council and speak to new motion number 2, received from Councillor Holland and Councillor Neal with respect to the Dental Week project. And just a reminder to our delegations, you have 5 minutes. Mr. Knowles.
Hello all. Hi, my name is David Knowles, and I'm one of the ones that are taking action every single day to help slow down climate change, but not here tonight to talk about climate change. I'm here to talk about poverty in the city. About a year and a half ago, I joined the board of Homebase Housing, and that experience in the last year and a half has really opened my eyes to the state of poverty in the city, to the extent of youth poverty as well as seniors and retirees. And what I'm talking about in terms of youth, I'm talking about the unemployed, the underemployed, the zero benefits, the contract and the freelance youth, or what I call the screwed generation. I'm also, a point of interest, 42% of all visits to the hospital emergency for tooth emergencies are made by this sector, the youth sector, between the ages of 20 and 29, because they simply do not have the benefits or the resources to look after it themselves. I'm also talking about seniors and retired people who, without benefits, can no longer afford the skyrocketing cost of dental care. And I'm talking about the marginally employed people who are stuck in a negative feedback loop. They don't make enough money to provide themselves with dental care, and poor teeth and no smile equals low self-esteem. They cannot get ahead. They're in what I call a negative feedback loop. So a few months ago, I came up with the idea of introducing a positive into that negative feedback loop. And what I came up with, I did some research, I talked to some dentists, and I talked to sole proprietor dentists. I came up with the idea of buying a dentist's chair for 1 week. So buying the dentist's chair and the dentist and his assistant and all of their supplies. I did the research and I came up with a figure of $10,000 would buy those 5 days. So I launched a fundraising campaign. I called it the Dental Week Project. And what I'm doing is I'm in the community talking to people I know, businesses I know. Every time I give a presentation on climate change, I pass around the pledge sheet and I ask people to sign up. So far, I'm about a quarter of the way to my $10,000 target. Somewhere along the line, I met a person named Heather Veck of the Kingston Dental Coalition. She assures me that there is no shortage of people to take advantage of the free dental week once I get things up and rolling. And she and I have been working together to help move the project forward. I originally thought that I would handle it all myself. I would do the triage process myself, and then once the triage was done, we would select the dentist and then begin sending in patients. Heather assures me that we have a dentist who has done pro bono work in the past and would gladly accept the $10,000 for a week's worth of work, and she has no shortage of people to take advantage of it. So I'm just going to read it. Heather couldn't be here tonight, but I just wanted to read a couple of things that Heather sent to me. And Heather Veck, again, is a community development worker with the Kingston Community Health Center, and she is also the chair of the Kingston Dental Coalition. And her words, "The mouth is something that should be considered part of the body. Dental care should be part of the universal health care." She goes on to say that inadequate dental care is a growing problem in communities across Kingston, across Canada, and those living in poverty are at greatest risk of poor dental health. Fixing people's mouths would make them become more employable, which in turn would save government's taxpayer money. And she goes on to say that I have seen firsthand the correlation of poor dental health and unemployment, and she receives calls every single day from people who are absolutely desperate for help to fix their mouths. The only thing she can do is empathize and apologize for not being able to help them. Having a healthy smile, especially when looking for work, is imperative for improved and more productive day-to-day life. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will move on to our briefing. So again, I'll invite Lanny Hurdle, Commissioner of Community Services, to introduce Pavna Varma, President and CEO, United Way Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington, Tara Everett, Home-Based Housing, and Jason Bobia, Kingston Youth Shelter, who will be providing a briefing with respect to Information Report Number 2, United Way City of Kingston Joint Youth Homelessness Initiatives.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, and I'm pleased to be here tonight and joined by Pavna Varma from United Way, Jason Bobia from Youth Shelter, and Tara Everett from Home-Based Housing. And we're here tonight to talk to you about some of the key community initiatives that we have been working on in the community to try to address the youth homelessness issue. As council's all aware, this week is Youth Week, and today we had a wonderful event in Memorial Hall in terms of raising awareness around youth homelessness. So I will briefly touch base on a few initiatives, key initiatives, and my colleagues will add on for the rest of the presentation. But a few things that I wanted to talk about, and I'm having some challenges. There we go. A few things that I wanted to talk about today. The first two initiatives that I wanted to highlight are the youth homelessness strategy and the 10-year housing and homelessness plan that were worked on and developed a couple of years ago. And those two initiatives were done in consultation with partners and had a lot of youth engagement, especially in the youth homelessness strategy. And the key point that I want to make on this, these two initiatives is that by working together in partnership, in collaboration, we were able to put together a common vision and goals in terms of how we wanted to serve homeless youth in our community or youth at risk of being homeless. And I think that's the key point that I want to make to council. It was really by working together and pulling our resources together as well. So some of the key recommendations that came out of both major documents that were endorsed were funding for youth shelter, for example, or some enhanced programs for youth workers as far as prevention diversion is concerned. So we have obviously started to implement the recommendations. We will continue to do that work, but it's very key that we continue to do that in collaboration with all our key partners. The other initiative that I'm also going to touch base on is a youth employment strategy, and this is a priority, strategic priority of council. We started this work about 6 months ago, and it has a number of key community organizations at the table. We also have business representation and agencies, and they've all come forward, and not just to provide input, but also to be part of the implementation and part of the solution. And I think that's very key when we look at these major initiatives that we have in our community, that it's not just city-led, but it's really community-led. And the key here is to be able to provide a better integration for barriered youth and our young graduates in our local workforce. So we anticipate that that strategy should be complete this summer and brought back to council for endorsement at that time. And with that, I will leave it at that and pass it over to Ms. Varma, who will add some information in terms of the initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Lani. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Firstly, thank you for proclaiming today Youth Homelessness Awareness Day. It's very important to our initiative to have something like that. And I know other communities have taken this as an example of leadership from City Council. So thank you for that. It's hard to pack 3 years of work into 3 minutes, which is what I understand I have. So I'll let you read the full plan, but I'll focus on a couple of things. So firstly, it's common sense, but it really has been meaningful for us to have the voice of youth. So for the last 3 years, we've been talking to youth right through. We have a youth council, and anyone who was at the reception today would have seen the video produced by a member of youth council and met many of our youth council members. We have stories along the way, and I'd encourage you before you leave tonight to read some of those stories. They're all real stories. These are kids living in our community who have shared their voice with us, and they have entrusted us with that voice to make sure that we do things differently so youth don't have to go through what they went through. So I would encourage you, these are recent stories, some are a year old, but many of them actually are hot off the press. They were taken last week and they have been scribed and put down. So we've added them to the hallway. We know that the reasons youth become homeless are different from adults, and we know that the solutions need to be different, and the youth have been very vocal in telling us what the solutions are. So they didn't come to us with problems, they came to us with solutions. They came to us with compassion, with courage, and resilience. And it's important that we respect that and do something with it. So we have a collective, and I'd love to spend more time some other time. I will rush through my 3 minutes. I speak really quickly. But today we're launching our education and awareness campaign because the one thing youth told us loud and clear was it is really important to prevent youth homelessness. We all agree with that. I know as government sometimes it's a little harder to appreciate funding prevention, but that's what we're in this business for, to prevent youth from being homeless. So we have listened to them very carefully, and we've developed an education and awareness campaign which we're launching today. And it's targeting 3 areas. One is youth who are already at risk. And what we heard loud and clear from the youth is they've got some horrendous stories. They have they have very little reason to trust adults and institutions. So we wanted the stories to come from youth, to tell them to seek help. We have an army of amazing frontline agencies, and you'll hear from a couple of them today, who are just anxious and willing to work with them when they're ready for change. But we need to connect the youth with them. So our first stretch is to actually get youth connected with our services. The second one is prevention. So we are actually working very closely with the school boards and our youth council to go into schools and tell kids, grades 7, 8 upwards, about the issue, what the causes are, and what they can do to prevent youth homelessness. So maybe they'll do something different, seek the help they need before they get to the point of being on the streets. The third one is reduce stigma amongst the general public. When you read those stories, you'll see some faces you'll probably recognize from around town because they are real people in our community. And we want to remove that stigma of youth homelessness because these kids are amongst us. They are our leaders. They are our partners. They are our business people. They are our future. And so it's really important for us to understand that just like everyone else. And we need to treat them with the respect and dignity that they deserve. So again, we'll come to you again with an enhanced campaign about reducing the stigma. This is our theory of change. We believe the yellow circle is where we've got intense services to help kids with intervention services. We believe if we collectively, City Council, United Way, funders, the community at large, and youth, work collectively to increase the prevention, we will actually need fewer resources into the center. We can spend our resources so youth don't have to go through what some of these street-involved youth have been through. So again, that's our theory of change. Would love to chat with you more about it or have you attend some of our meetings to learn firsthand. But I am going to talk a little bit about, I know I've run over my 3 minutes, thank you, Mayor. But we have some pilot programs. A family mediation worker is based out of Kingston Youth Shelter because we want to get to kids before they actually leave home or are thrown out of home. We have a peer support worker for mental health issues, again, working very closely with the shelters and services. And we have also developed a protocol with 211 that's all in the plan. I'll leave that with you. And I'm going to hand it over to Jason.
Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to talk a bit about kind of some of the new programs and initiatives that have been started as a result of this. And you know that I'm excited about it because they got me into a blue shirt, and I'm still not sure how that occurred. It's typically my typical black wardrobe. So at the Kingston Youth Shelter, we've been fortunate enough to expand our programs into 2 different areas. And, in the 12 years I've been with the shelter, we've seen 2 major things that we felt were preventable. One, youth coming back into the shelter after being housed as a result of just not having basic life skills to be able to live on their own. And the other is that about 1/3 of all our residents every year, we're able to get reunited back at home, but not until after they've been in the shelter system. So the first thing is expanding transitional housing to prevent those from coming back into the shelter. Thanks to the support of United Way, KFL&A, we opened our first Kingston Youth Transitions at 212 Yonge Street just this past October. Currently, that's a 5-bed transitional housing program while we work on the final 2 bedrooms that we're putting into the basement. That program is full. And of course, recognizing the need for further, with the help of a very generous local donor, again in the United Way, we're in the process of getting a second transitional housing program operating as well to expand that by another 7 beds just for the lower age range of youth aged 16 to 19. Looking at the prevention side, with 1/3 of our youth that we're able to reunite back at home, but of course not until they enter the shelter system, why can't we just prevent them from entering the shelter system to begin with? Enter our family mediation worker. And so out of the Kingston Youth Shelter, when we have parents or youth that are attempting to enter the shelter as a result of having nowhere else to go, this is a person who is able and willing to work with the family with the goal of keeping the youth at home, to prevent them from ever entering the shelter system, providing support to the whole family as opposed to just the youth, And if we can keep even half, if not 80% of that 1/3 from ever entering the shelter system, we've gone a long way to preventing youth homelessness right there. So we've been very excited. Both of these programs have been incredibly successful, though they are still early for us, but we're looking forward to continuing them in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. So I'm Tara Everett. I'm the program manager of Kingston Youth Services with Home-Based Housing, where we operate 29 units of housing, supportive housing for young people. Our most recent housing within the past 4 years is Rise at 149, which is individual bachelor and one-bedroom apartments that house 21 formerly homeless or at-risk youth. We currently have a 0% vacancy rate with a wait list. And I just think that's important to note. It speaks to the concern of affordable housing for everybody in the city of Kingston, but especially with young people. There's been a lot of great work happening with the United Way and with the city of Kingston and with the launch of their 10-year homelessness plan. And Jason and I work closely together to help support these homeless youth and youth at risk. About a year ago, Home-Based Housing and several other organizations within the city of Kingston came together to explore the concept of a youth services hub in the city of Kingston. So there's a lot of great support that's happening in the city for young people. But what we're hearing time and time again from youth is that it's hard for them to navigate the system. They, are experiencing addiction, mental health issues, so they go down to addictions and mental health, and then that counselor finds out they're homeless. So then they're sent to the Kingston Youth Shelter or Home-Based Housing, who then finds out they need income supports. So then they're directed down to Ontario Works to get assistance. And so the concept of bringing all these key agencies together under one roof, we've engaged some of the key issues with that Pavna touched on, but with youth homelessness is youth leaving, mental health hospital, youth justice systems, and child and family services. So we reached out to those key players, addictions and mental health, child and family services, and Kingston Community Health Centers, community living, because it was also reported to us that there's a lot of young people with developmental delays that are at risk of homelessness. And the shelter isn't necessarily the best place for these young people. And so we reached out to community living, employment services, and education supports. So we've been working on this idea for about the past year, and really what it would look like is bringing all these services providers together, and included in this space would be a youth resource room where young people can come out of the cold, they can come access supports, they can come hang out, they can come do their laundry. There currently is no place in the city of Kingston for youth to access on a regular basis. A lot of the adult services are not appropriate for these young people, and we don't necessarily want a 16-year-old young female hanging out in a drop-in center with a 40-year-old man. So that was kind of the key concept, and we're at the early stages, but even the collaboration that we've brought all these youth-serving agencies together and talking about the youth issues has been great. Thanks.
And once again, thank you for your support and your leadership. This is a collective. We're all working together, and we'd love to have any of you come out and attend our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I have one. So Ms. Varma, we heard actually at the beginning of the presentation that there's a youth homelessness initiative and also a youth employment strategy moving forward. And I'm interested to know, do the two link? Do they overlap at all? Is there any efforts, for example, if there's homeless youth, to try to get them employment skills to be able to facilitate that?
Absolutely. So the top 3 reasons youth are homeless, is what we heard was, number 1 is family conflict, which we're trying to address. Number 2 is addictions and mental health, which again, we're working together to address. The third one was employment. So we are actually working very closely with employment. And as a result of our connections and working closely together, we actually have started looking at programming for youth at risk who need some life skills that are higher than someone who's, let's say, graduated and moved on to post-secondary. So we are looking at it with a very targeted lens.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, do we have any petitions to present? Seeing none, we do have a motion of condolence, moved by Mayor Patterson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen, that the condolences of Kingston City Council be extended to the family of Peter Moore, longtime bus operator with the City of Kingston, who passed away on April 13th, 2016. Our thoughts are with Peter's family during this difficult time. So we will call the vote. And that carries. We have no deferred motions this evening, so on to reports. First, report number 46 from the CAO.
Moved by Councillor Osanek, seconded by Councillor Boehm, that report number 46 from the Chief Administrative Officer consent be received and adopted.
So we have a number of items, A through I. Item D has been separated for Councillor George. Are there any other separations? Councillor Holland.
Item C.
Item C. Councillor Neal.
Item E.
Item E. Okay, seeing no other separations, we will first vote on the balance of the items. So first, item A, replacement of magnetic separator at the material recovery facility. Item B, fire dispatch service agreements, the Corporation of the Township of North Frontenac and the Corporation of the Township of Frontenac Islands. Item F, proposed cell tower land lease, Bell Mobility, Inc., 1303 John Marks Avenue. Item G, community engagement process and consultants for community visioning exercise, federal properties in Portsmouth Olympic Harbor. Item H, step-down funding and end of operating agreement strategy. Item I, amendment of TerraNet General Municipal License Agreement, Ontario Ownership Mapping Data Products. We will call the vote. And that carries. So next we have item C, Kingston Transit Secondary School Complementary Transit Pilot Program. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I guess just quickly to pass on thanks for the incredible work that's been put into this program already, and for all the initiatives, the iterative process that has been involved into staff for putting together what looks like a wonderful long-term strategy for developing this, the ridership amongst our youth, and also addressing some of our transportation issues as a city. The one question I have is in regards to in the report, some of the revenues that are associated with the increased ridership, specifically the gas tax, the portion of the gas tax that comes to the municipality. I was just hoping I could get a little bit of an explanation on how that works, and whether, like if there's some ratio, for example, in terms of increased ridership goes up this amount, this many dollars. Thank you.
Ms. Kidd?
Through you, Your Worship, I can't give you a ratio. The gas tax is an amount of money that's apportioned to municipalities based on both population of the municipality and ridership. So when ridership increases, municipalities tend to get a larger share of the proportionate amount that would have come to them. So Kingston, over the last several years, has been very fortunate in that we've been getting a little bit more every year, and certainly this ridership growth helps.
Next on my list is Councillor Neal.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this is a great initiative. I, over the last several years, have appreciated as we've rolled it out and increased it year by year. I know it's a universal program, but it's probably, in my mind, the most effective for young people, the most effective anti-poverty initiative as well. If you live in one area of the city with a single parent, no car, you still have an opportunity with this program year-round to be able to accept employment across town, to be able to make it to your job. And we're teaching a generation of people that public transit is an excellent, viable, quick way to get around the city. The days when they used to call buses loser cruisers, I don't think is the case anymore, because when you ride the bus, you see there's a whole cross-section of people in the from the community taking buses. So I think it's a great opportunity. I had the pleasure of going to a transit summit on behalf of Kingston Transit and City of Kingston some months ago. Dr. Costello from the University of Waterloo was the facilitator and keynote speaker. And the number of people at that summit from other communities that have contacted me since then that were really, really impressed with some of the novel things that we've done to increase ridership, including the seniors workshops and 1 month senior transit pass if you took the course. And we've put more and more of those events on because they've been so successful. And now secondary school complementary transit pilot program, I'm hoping each year this has been a pilot program. And we're now declaring 3 years as a pilot program. And I hope at the end of the pilot, we can say this is a City of Kingston permanent program. The City of Kingston and Kingston Transit staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the last 2 or 3 years, we've had low double-digit ridership increase compared to the provincial average, which is somewhere hovering around 2%. So clearly, something we're doing is right in this city, and I really want to applaud Kingston Transit for the leadership that they've provided in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sanik.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have no problem supporting the grade 12 graduate extension of the transit pass. My question is just about the research project and spending up to $25,000 following up and just trying to determine if that's good value for that sort of money. And so I just wondered, like for this data, whenever we do the update to the Kingston Transportation Master Plan, we do a transportation survey. So couldn't some of these questions just be asked to those transit users, like when we do the survey in the next couple of years?
Ms. Kidd.
Through you, Your Worship, we do a survey as part of the KTMP update, but this particular research project is targeting the students that have benefited from the free transit program for 4 years. And the main objective when Council introduced this program was to see if it would help ingrain a transit mentality and a commitment. So we think it's really important that we talk to the people that actually ran through the pilot program so that we can get a really good understanding.
Okay, thank you. So just the follow-up question, then the purpose of the research project is just to determine if it's a successful use of the money that the city is spending subsidizing those bus passes. Is that how things will change? We'll just know if we should continue it?
Through you, we're actually interested in whether the introduction of free transit and the exposure to transit through the free program influences their choices in terms of transportation when it's not free and they're no longer students.
Councillor Stroud.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Kidd. I was going to comment along the lines of the questions of Councillor Sanik. That is my prediction that and hope that the research project will indeed show that transition from the free program to permanent users of transit is actually the uptake is quite high because just from my own personal experience of becoming a transit user myself this year, having grown up in Kingston and having tried transit several times in the past and never stuck with it, and now I'm sticking with it. And so the changes that have been made recently have obviously been, I've felt them directly, and I'd like to think that the free program will really, spread that knowledge, is the awareness, raise the awareness as much as possible to have that successful transition, because that's the key in this whole endeavor, is to show that you can create riders. There may be a cost at that point in their life when you're offering the free pass, but you get much greater value down the line if they become lifelong transit users. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will call the vote on item C. And that carries. Item D is declare surplus and dispose of municipal property, being Block A on Plan 642 Wardman Avenue. So Councillor George is stepping away. So with that, we will call the vote. And that carries. Item E, radio communication facilities, proposal for third-party reviewer and amendment to bylaw numbers 2005-10 and 2006-75. Councillor Neal.
Yes, those of us on planning, I believe it was, had an excellent briefing from the gentleman that represents this service. I think it's a brilliant service. It, in fact, doesn't cost taxpayers because the money is, the fees are covered in the licensing mechanism for telecommunication towers and such. And we've always been in that sticky situation of having people in the community come to planning at public meetings to talk about a wide range of concerns that they have, and we've had to say, well, this is a compulsory public meeting, but we can't really dictate. This is federal jurisdiction. And what this allows us to do, and what other communities are doing with this service, is they're creating a preferred criteria, such as proximity to schools, proximity to residences, that kind of thing. And so they're creating, and Kingston can do the same, a kind of list of criteria of concerns that we can review and modify from time to time. But the agency that is representing us can then go forward and using moral suasion to try and get the telecommunication companies to recognize that there are community concerns. And from our questions after the briefing, I think it's clear that indeed they have had considerable success with the industry in saying, yeah, you don't have to do this, but this is what the city of Kingston would really, really appreciate you doing. This is going to be too close to a school. Can you find another location within the appropriate area that doesn't deny that criteria that the city has set forth? So I think it's a great system. It doesn't cost the citizens anything. It makes this more accountable for the community. So I totally support this.
Thank you. So we will call the vote on item E. And that carries. Report number 47 from Planning Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. It's my pleasure to present report number 47 and ask that it be received and adopted. Thank you. Thanks.
Moved by Councillor Shell, second by Councillor Neal, that report number 47 from the Planning Committee be received and adopted.
There's just the one clause, approval of an application for zoning bylaw amendment 358 Victoria Street. We'll call the vote. And that carries. Report number 48 from the Environment, Infrastructure, and Transportation Policies Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. I rise now to present report number 48, moved and seconded from EITP, and ask that Council receive and adopt it.
Moved by Councillor Stroud, second by Councillor Allen, that report number 48 from the Environment, Infrastructure, and Transportation Policies Committee be received and adopted.
So there are 5 items. Would anyone like them separated? Seeing none, we'll vote on them as a whole. Number 1 is water and natural gas conservation incentive programs. Number 2, proposed Bill 151, Waste-Free Ontario Act. Number 3, removal of colored expanded polystyrene from the Blue Box program. Number 4, integrated waste management study, alternative technologies for processing residual municipal solid waste. Item number 5, Kingston Environmental Advisory Forum Working Group Terms of Reference. We'll call the vote. And that carries. Nothing from Committee of the Whole. We do have a couple of information reports. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Number 1, pending and committed residential development supply update to December 2015. Number 2, United Way City of Kingston Joint Youth Homelessness Initiatives. We have no information reports from members of council. Miscellaneous business. Motion number 1, that as requested by 58 Squadron Royal Canadian Air Cadets, Council approved the raising of the flag on May 28, 2016, representing the Air Cadets' 75th anniversary at Confederation Basin, and from May 30th to June 6th at Princess Division Street. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Bohm. Please vote. And that carries. Number 2, that as requested by the 58 Squadron Royal Canadian Air Cadets, asking Council to proclaim May 28th to May the 4th, 2016 as 58 Air Commodore A. Dwight Ross GCCB-ECD Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron Week in the City of Kingston. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Bohm, seconded by Councillor Shell. Councillor George?
Quick question, what should the actual week be? You're proclaiming May 28th to May 4th.
What are we proclaiming?
You're asking council to proclaim May 28th to May 4th of this year as the Canadian Air Cadet Squadron
So that
Week.
should read June the 4th, is that right?
It should be June the 4th,
So
okay.
thank you
If
for
we could correct that.
So it should be May 20th to June the 4th. Okay, please vote. Good catch, Councillor George. And that carries. On to new motions. So I'm going to hand the chair over for the first motion, noting that it's a motion of reconsideration. I'll let the Deputy Mayor decide if he wants to read all of it or not, but Deputy Mayor, the chair is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we voted on this motion at our last meeting as part of a report. Would Council like me to read it all through to remind them of the contents? No, I'm seeing some no's. Okay, that's fantastic. We do need to get 2/3 of vote to reconsider. So we are voting whether or not to reconsider. So a yes vote is yes, we're going to reconsider this motion. no is we're going to leave it as is. And I believe that we're going to do this because we just have to add, remove a clause from this in terms of moving it forward. So we're going to make that amendment after we have the vote. So if there are no comments, Mr. Mayor, you can speak to that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So just a note, just to take my 1 minute to speak to my motion of reconsideration. This is just a housekeeping item, so I'm just asking council to reconsider this so that we can amend it by just removing one paragraph that was added in error. There's really nothing else going on besides this motion of reconsideration. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion to reconsider? We'll call a vote. Okay, so that carries, and I think now that we have that reconsideration on the floor, it was a report motion, so we can pass the chair back to Mr. Mayor, correct? I'll hold on to it. Okay, so, but Mr. Mayor would like to speak, so I'll recognize the mayor.
Thank you. So I just want to put forward then a motion to amend the original motion, and I believe that the clerks have that there. If there's a seconder, again, this is just the housekeeping item that was referred to.
Seconded by Councillor Bohm. So this is a motion to amend the original motion. The amendment made by Mayor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Bohm. Any discussion on the amendment? We'll call a vote on the amendment. And that carries. So now we have a motion in front of us as amended that we need to vote on. Any further discussion? We'll call the vote. And with that, I'm going to return the chair to the chair, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to motion number 2, moved by Councillor Holland, seconded by Councillor Neal. Whereas oral health has long been acknowledged as a critical component of overall health, and untreated dental issues can lead to significant health problems such as heart disease, chronic inflammation, and in severe cases, sepsis. And whereas financial barriers and lack of dental benefits reduce access to dental care for Kingston residents living under the low-income cutoff, and untreated oral health conditions can lead to tooth loss and decay that can lower self-esteem and limit employment options. And whereas the Kingston Community Health Center currently works with dentists to provide assistance when possible, but cannot meet all the needs of those who cannot afford care on an ongoing basis, resulting in an increased number of residents seeking treatment in hospital emergency rooms. And whereas the Dental Week project is a community-based fundraising goal to buy a dental practice, chair, staff, and supplies for 1 week at a cost of $10,000, and businesses and organizations are being asked to match pledges to meet and expand upon the 1 week target. Therefore, be it resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer be requested to contribute $10,000 for the City of Kingston to the Dental Week project in 2016 from current budget funds to assist with the provision of free dental care to residents without coverage who are living under the LICO. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Your Worship. So there was an initiative brought forward with the last council, and this is not that, obviously. There's a real need for improved services for people living under low income here in Kingston who currently have dental needs that are not being met. They cannot afford to access the care, and they don't have benefits. And as we heard from the delegation, that situation is changing, and it is sort of keeping, it's aligned with what's changing in our labor market, where we have a lot more precarious work and lower rates of unionization and benefits provided by an employer. So for all of those reasons, there is a longer term need to support dental care. The mouth is part of the body. This is the argument that people are raising all over the province of Ontario. Why do we not consider it? Why do we not consider an infection in the mouth something that should be covered in our healthcare system? Now, having said all that, I do, of course, acknowledge that this is City Hall and not Queen's Park, and we're not here to make healthcare policy. But if we look around the province, we can see that in other cities, health units across the province have been fighting for this type of program, and that cities have been picking up the slack, as we've done in other cases when it comes to healthcare and services for people living in poverty. So this idea came about, of course, because of some involvement from a community member and a community organization that is interested in organizing. And there is a longer-term solution on the horizon. The province has announced that by 2025 that there will be a program that's an awful long ways off. So the idea for this motion was that there is currently the potential to support the situation, to improve the situation for those in need right now or in the near future. And what exists currently in terms of funding and resources for people who require dental care, for anyone who's on Ontario Works, there are benefits provided. It's about $350 a year with up to an additional $250 for emergencies. For low-income residents, however, there is quite a gap. The health unit does provide $200 once a year, maximum $200 once a year, for anyone who requires services, an adult, but these are the requirements. So you have to be a resident of Kingston. You need emergency dental treatment for pain, swelling, infection, trauma, or bleeding. So you need to be in a crisis situation in order to access this care. And another one of the criteria are that the cost of emergency dental treatment would create a financial hardship. And by that, they mean that you would be unable to pay your rent or mortgage this month. You would be unable to pay your household bills, including heat and electricity, or you would have to go to the food bank in order to feed your family this month. So in order to qualify for $200, you have to be in a severe situation and you need to not be able to afford food, which you probably wouldn't be able to eat anyway, considering your dental condition. So this is an opportunity. We've seen earlier this evening that the city is engaged in many partnerships and that philanthropy is a big part of what happens in the city to meet some of the needs that we have. And how would the city benefit from something like this? Well, as I mentioned, it's not a long-term solution, but when there are people who are living with pain and they're enduring the shame that comes from intergenerational poverty, the conditions that create tooth loss and decay and abscesses and just in general poor conditions for dental health, when someone is living in that condition, there is a negative impact on the city. So for these reasons, I would ask for your support of this initiative, which is one way that we can deal with a fairly, an emergency, I would argue. And it's something that we can address, we can use to address the need in the short term while we continue to look for a program that will better reduce the chances of this situation occurring in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Neal.
Yes, thank you very much. I was very, very happy to second this motion. Those who were on council in the last term remember that we were faced with a difficult decision because what was once covered by the province, this was one of those services that was that was no longer available. It is available for children, but not for adults. Former Councillor Rick Downs brought forward at budget time a request to try and find a way that we could continue this really vital service to the community. Unfortunately, that motion was unsuccessful. the 2 or 3 times it was brought forward. I think this is a great opportunity, and I have to say it's a very modest request. I think we should treat this as a pilot and find a way to continue with this modest, and it is a very modest proposal, but it will help a good number of people in the community that desperately need this help. And I know, and I warned the mayor I was going to say this, I know that in the past he's said he would really appreciate if more motions were asking the city to match those charitable donations from the community, and this is exactly that kind of a motion. So I applaud my mover for bringing forward this excellent motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schell.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. I'm very interested in this motion, as I was the one at the previous council, but a couple of questions. It's not clear who we would be writing a check to in this motion. So would it be to the community health center? And who would, is it the community health center that will be actually running the program? I don't know who we're giving the money to.
Okay, so is the mover in a position to answer those questions? Oh, Commissioner Hurdle.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe I can give this a try. My understanding, and I've had a chance to meet with Mr. Knowles, my understanding is that he's working closely with the Kingston Community Health Centers on this, so my recommendation would be to work through the Kingston Community Health Center to make sure that there is a process in place so that we are, we are better able to keep track of the funding.
So is there anything required to amend the wording of this motion to specify that, or are staff comfortable with the wording of the motion as is? We're fine with that? Okay, thank you. Councillor Schell?
Yes, thank you. And then I'm presuming then that the health centers would be responsible for the patients, because that, I should imagine there'll be a long lineup. So there must be somebody who can work out who will be receiving the service. Because I agree, it's absolutely necessary, but I do want to make sure that it's a fair process, not something that's been sort of thought up, but without a plan behind it.
Great. Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Councillor Stroud.
I'm in favor of this motion. To sum up, it's a very modest amount of money. It is being matched by fundraising in the community. It is attempting to address a very urgent problem, and I think the delegation, Mr. Knowles, really showed evidence of really having thought this through. I think it's a well thought out idea, and I'm confident that this small amount of contribution from the City of Kingston will go a long way. Just to point out, to put that dollar amount into perspective, if one of those people gets a tooth infection and ends up in intensive care unit with sepsis, as it says in the first whereas clause, I've personal experience with that, having worked in the ICU. It's actually more common than you think, but that one ICU stay for sepsis caused by tooth abscess is likely to cost taxpayers of Ontario $50,000, one person. So an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. In this case, that 10,000 will go a lot further in the long run for the people of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchison.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to repeat what was just said. I just want to say that I agree, and it's a very good initiative, and I applaud the citizens that have pursued it. I just have one perhaps pedantic issue here. It says, is there a resolve that the Chief Administrative Officer be requested? Surely that's the office of the Chief Administrative Officer, because he's not going to do the contribution himself, although I looked over there and he laughed jovially, but, you know, he actually doesn't want to do it himself.
He gets paid enough.
So a friendly amendment, I think, would straighten that out.
So I'll ask for a comment from staff. Is there any concern with the wording of the resolve clause about you personally having to do some dental work, say you want?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I thank council for that observation, but I think I can proceed with the motion as it's drafted with the intent of council.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
But he reneged. I just want to know that to be pointed out.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, will you take the chair?
I will take the chair, and I recognize you.
Well, thank you. So certainly I recall these debates around the previous council table, and it was no secret at that point that I was extremely reluctant to go down this particular road, straying into a jurisdiction that is clearly the provincial government's responsibility, and that really as municipalities we do not have the fiscal capacity to deal with these issues. Not to say it's not an important issue, and Councillor Stroud has made that important point that really an ounce of prevention can save a lot of dollars. But again, that's from province to province. And here, sometimes as municipalities, we all know we can be under pressure to be able to step in and to fill a gap that we do not have the fiscal capacity to fill. That being said, in my view, having read this motion, I do see this as a very different proposal from what was put forward to the previous council. That this really is, in my view, a community fundraising project, and we are being asked to match funds. And yes, as Councillor Neal has pointed out, I am a big fan of that because in my view, that rewards private fundraising, that rewards the efforts of others in the individual that meet needs in those community. And so for that reason, I am happy to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, and I return the chair.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will call the vote. And that carries. I think we've been unanimous on every single vote tonight. You're absolutely right, Councillor Neal. Notices of motion. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, I'll ask for minutes.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Allen, second by Councillor Holland, that the minutes of City Council meeting number 2016-13 held Tuesday, April 19th, 2016 be confirmed.
Please vote. And that carries. Is there any other business? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, I will ask for bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Bone, second by Councillor Holland, that bylaws 1 through 5 and 11 be given their first and second reading.
Please vote. That carries.
Moved by Councillor Bone, second by Councillor Holland, that clause 11.34 of bylaw number 2010-1 be suspended for the purpose of giving bylaw 5 3 readings.
Please vote. And that carries.
Moved by Councillor Bone, second by Councillor Holland, that bylaws 4 through 11 be given their third reading.
Please vote. And that carries. Motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Bone, seconded by Councillor Candon. Please vote. And that carries. Thanks very much.